We got big guests ready to go.
This is America's favorite outdoor talk program.
Oh, really? If these guests were fish, they would be lunkers.
Nature Children is where it's at.
Hello there, I'm a bass, and I am petrified of Alex Langer's show.
Outdoors This Week.
Everybody can participate, no matter how old you are, what income you are, for that matter, what sex you are.
Anchor yourself right here, because it's time for Outdoors This Week.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you this morning? Lynn, how are you this morning?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm full of energy.
You are.
Yeah, you know why?
Why?
We have Superman on the show
That's
today.
true.
Once in a while, somebody wins the Bassmaster Classic, which puts them in the legend category all on its own. And then somebody once in a while wins the FLW Forrest Wood Cup, which is another category. That's another legend right there. But who has won both events, the Bassmaster Classic and the FLW Cup? I can't name of anybody.
I know, right?
Except
the next guest.
Except my next guest. He is none other than Luke Clausen, and he hails from the greater Spokane area. It's in the state of Washington. And actually, I'm quite familiar with the Spokane area because I've been there myself, and I used to own some property up there. If you're from the east, the greater Spokane and the Cooley Dam area are bigger than life. You know, the first time I was there, I expected to see John Wayne step out from behind one of the rocks, you know, with his horse. At least that's what I figured. I was sadly disappointed, though, when that didn't happen.
The Duke didn't show up.
The Duke was otherwise indisposed. So that's where Luke actually rhymes with Duke. I would have asked him if I thought of that. But maybe we'll call him Duke Clausen.
Duke Clausen.
Duke, not Luke, but Duke. Would you email him that
I
suggestion?
I will. Stephen call him the Duke.
That'll be his nickname on this show. Besides winning both the Forrest Wood Cup and the Bassmaster Classic, he has had 3 tournament wins, 8 appearances in the Forrest Wood Cup, and he has had 3 classic appearances, and he has won well over $1 million. He's won over $2 million in those tournament trails. So he'll be here along with all of our usual radio suspects, Lynn. You know who they are.
I do.
Why don't you name them?
I do. We have Ron Lindner, we have Wade Bourne, we have Larry Whiteley, and we have Sammy Lee.
And you're in love with all of them.
All of them. Absolutely.
That's great. So, folks, how can you beat that? Stay with us. We'll be right back after this with an exciting extravaganza.
Hang tight. More of America's outdoor talk program, Outdoors This Week, after this.
Hi, folks. Ron Lindner here for Linder's Angling Edge Television. Still seen on WFN, that's the World Fishing Network. And also, you can see us at lindermedia.com. Lindermedia.com, the world's most interesting website. Well, folks, it's ta-da trivia time. I'm just winging my way back home from a short vacation in Branson, Missouri. That's but this is their word, not mine. They call it the Hillbilly Las Vegas. We shot the entire walleye, the end of the FLW Walleye Championship tournament in the Quad Cities along the Mississippi River, which was the final and last tournament to ever be run by the FLW, the walleye tournaments. They're going into strictly bass. But at any rate, after that, I met my brother and sister-in-law, and we decided and I had my wife with me, so we took a little side vacation to Branson, Missouri, which I told you is gingerly called the Hillbilly Las Vegas. And, of course, we saw about 10 shows down there, just magic shows. And one of them is called the Legends Tour. And, of course, these are all imitators. They had all the ones that you would possibly imagine, including, of course, Elvis. And each person came up on the stage and did their thing. They had Whitney Houston passed away. They did a ode to her. And then they had a number of other ones as well. One of them was the Blues Brothers. And you know Jake and Elwood Blues from the famous movie, which brought to mind something. I guess it was 1979. This is when Al and I were early in fisherman days. Al was wearing a pair of sunglasses made by the Ray-Ban company, this Ray-Ban, and we were selling them through the magazine as well. It's the ones that, Al, if you go back to some 1970 issues, and actually earlier, these Ray-Ban special wraparounds is what Al was first introducing to fishermen in a Polaroid state that they could watch and see fish, into the water with. And we were selling quite a number of these certain model type of sunglasses. Well, at any rate, I get a call on the phone, and the girl down in our office says, "Ron, I better turn this over to you." It seems that there was if I recall right, a Deborah Doodleman or something like that. But I found this out later. She told me she was the costumer, a Hollywood costumer. And you got to realize in 1970, that didn't mean anything to me. She would later make things like she would be the costume designer for Raiders of the Lost Ark, Coming to America, Animal House, etc. But at this time in 1979, she's working on a movie, and it wasn't even famous, and nobody knew. She said that Mr. Belushi, who at that time it meant absolutely nothing to me, wanted this certain pair of sunglasses. They called the Ray-Ban company, and it seems like we, the In Fisherman magazine, had just received their full order of that particular style and model, and with the tint. And they had none, and none were on the line coming in. And this gal was absolutely frantic. She wanted 4 dozen, so she needed somebody to personally get these things into dust. She wanted 4 dozen of them, and she wanted them shipped out. She took the phone away from her assistant at this time because our gal gave me the phone, and she goes on to explain to me that this is Mr. Belushi's famous sunglasses that he was going to wear, and they needed extra pair. They were breaking, getting lost, etc. So. Would I please personally make sure that she needed them so badly she'd pay any extra freight just to bill her? That was a Deborah Noodleman from the production company. So I went downstairs and personally took the sunglasses, put them in a box, made sure that the number was there. I took the number myself. I recall 1979, or was it 80? Right in that era. And I personally shipped them out. Well, anyway, that was the ones that Jake and Elwood Blues wore all through the 2 Blues Brother movies. So anyway, they had the 2 actors on the stage who were imitating, and they did the whole Blues Brothers episode. And I looked up there. These were Al's Polaroid sunglasses that we were pushing to see fish through the water that we were selling in a magazine, and it brought back a lot of memories. Well, that's it roughly for the trivia for this little time, Alex. This was a moment of nostalgia, as it were. But until later, folks, Ron Linder, have a good one.
Duck season's coming up on Bass Pro Shop's Outdoor World.
Have you ever wanted to disappear into the woods? Have you ever wanted to tie your own flies, but never taken the time? Have you ever wanted to speak turkey? Then you belong at Bass Pro Shops. Every week, we offer free skills workshops to help you get started. See the store or go to BassPro.com for more information. Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here.
Time to get practicing your duck calls. Duck season's coming. Start by cleaning your calls and inspecting the reed. If you hunt 3 or 4 days a week, consider starting each season with a fresh reed or reed set. Expensive calls should be sent back to the call maker for new reeds. Otherwise, try installing and tuning the new reeds yourself. If you intend to buy a new duck call, place your order as early as possible. A back order notice holds little value on opening morning. With your older new call now tuned to perfection, practice as often as you can prior to duck season. A good approach is to find a place outdoors where you can practice calling at normal volume levels and then tape yourself comparing your calling to the recordings of live ducks. When you practice, do so with purpose. Don't just call randomly. Instead, make your practice sessions as realistic as possible by calling as if you're working a flock of ducks. Better get busy. Duck season's coming. Until next time, I'm Larry Whiteley, and this is Bass Pro Shop's Outdoor World.
Thanks, Larry. Watch out. There's a duck. Duck, Larry, duck. Thank you, Larry. Larry always gives us a riveting report every time on every show. And my next guest is also very riveting. In fact, I know why we haven't had him on before right now, because he's one of the few people in history who's ever won both the FLW Forrest Wood Cup and also the Bassmaster Classic. Any one of those makes you a legend, and two of those makes you some kind of super legend, I guess, right, Lynn?
That's true. One more big win, he'd have the trifecta of bass
what is
fishing.
it? I couldn't think of what is it?
I don't know what it would be.
Would that be one of the minor tournament trails, or maybe like Western Bass or something?
Oh,
like
there you
that?
go. Yeah.
His name is Luke Clausen. He is from the greater Spokane area in eastern Washington. Now, a lot of people don't know anything about eastern Washington, but I do. I was a landowner in eastern Washington at one time in my life, and I used to fly into Spokane. And first of all, Luke, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
How is Spokane these days?
Oh, it's great. You know, this is where I grew up. This is my home, and it's nice to be back. After traveling all year, we spent the first 8 months or so of the year pretty much on the road, so it's nice to get back home, and it's kind of turning into fall here. We got about 60-degree weather, and hunting season's surrounding us right now, so it's a good time to be here.
Are you out hunting right now?
No, I'm not right now. I'm actually home today trying to get caught up a little bit. I went pheasant hunting yesterday in the center part of the state, and I'll probably do a little bit of duck hunting tomorrow, but today's a day off to get caught up on bills and work around the house.
We're interrupting that. Is that correct, Luke?
I'm making time for you guys.
Yeah, that's great. As long as you make time for us. Have you ever fished Banks Lake out by the Grand Coulee Dam?
Yeah, actually, that's a lake I grew up fishing.
Really?
Had some great success there early in high school. I won my first boat on Banks Lake, and that's what probably really got me hooked on competitive fishing.
You used not to hear too much about bass in the Pacific Northwest, and until a few years ago, and Banks Lake was always one of those places that had the bass and had the bass fishing on it. Lake Roosevelt, which is right next to it, is a deep, deep reservoir, and it has bass, but it has everything but bass also. Tell me about Banks Lake.
Well, you know, we have a lot of great bass fisheries here. Banks is definitely one of them, but probably not the best. Banks has a lot of smallmouth and largemouth both, and walleye, and multi-species spiny ray lake. There's even trout in there, but there's a lot of other great lakes in the state here. Potholes reservoirs in the center part of the state. It'll take a 4+ pound average pretty much any time of the year there to win. Lake Coeur d'Alene here in North Idaho, just across the border, is really an up-and-coming smallmouth fishery, and always has been a great largemouth fishery, and that smallmouth, you can catch 20 to 25 pounds of smallmouth there in the fall and 18 to 20 pounds in the summer, and it'll take 25 pounds of largemouth to win pretty much any tournament there. So, you know, the bass fishing, like you said, is really gone unnoticed here in Washington, especially from a far perspective, but there really is some excellent fishing here.
I was always shocked by that because I was always a bass guy, and I figured I'd come to the Pacific Northwest and there wouldn't be any bass, and boy, was I wrong. You probably live closer to Lake Coeur d'Alene than anywhere else. Is that your home lake?
Yeah, that is my home lake. I have a place on Coeur d'Alene now. It's a place I grew up, and a place I duck hunt a lot. It definitely a lot of fond memories for me on Coeur d'Alene there. It's only about 30 minutes from my house.
Brandon Polinick is also from the area. Did you know him?
You know, Brandon kind of started fishing after I'd left and been back east a lot. I'd spent some time living in Nashville and Atlanta, and he kind of started fishing around that time. So I really didn't get the chance to fish against him back here. I know Brandon now, but didn't know him back then.
He's a good guy. He's been on the show quite a bit. And who is your angling hero and why? Who did you grow up wanting to be like?
Oh, that's a hard question. I guess originally when I first started wanting to become a professional fisherman, I wanted to be in the Crappie-Thon USA, and I wanted to be like Wally Marshall.
I expected like Clun or somebody like that, but not Wally Marshall.
Yeah, I soon realized there's a lot more money in bass fishing.
What's the matter with you, Luke?
Chase bass and chase crappie around. Yeah, I'd probably have to say my hero now, and actually a good friend of mine I've gotten to know on the Chevy team is Larry Nixon. Just really upstanding, great guy, along with a great fisherman and a really legend in the sport.
He's all that. Luke, we got to go to a break. Would you come back for another segment?
I'd love to.
Great. Please put all your cleaning on hold.
I'm the big boss bass, and you work for me. This is my rock. These are my weeds. You can drag your crankbait right in front of my face. Take your presentation.
Wow! Woo! Hold on to that, and that's a good one. In stereo, Tight Lines with Sammy Lee.
He has his own nationally syndicated television show and was the first man to ever win the BASS Grand Slam. He's Hank Parker. Hello, this is Sammy Lee. Today I'll start a conversation with Hank about spinnerbaits. But first, this message.
Your attention, please.
Is almost over. Smart baits are on their way. Smart baits. Color that changes with the temperature of the water. Color. The fishing world will never be the same. Get a sneak peek now at smartbaits.net. Color changes everything. Smart baits. Coming soon.
Hank Parker was the first man to ever win the BASS Grand Slam, and one bait that helped Hank win these titles was a spinnerbait. So I asked Hank to tell me what he says to a person that has never fished a spinnerbait before.
I like tandem spin spinnerbaits. I think a tandem spin puts off a good vibration, but at the same time, when you have two blades and you're fishing it around heavy cover, one blade's always turning, so it works as a keel. And if you have a single spin and you hit a limb and that blade quits turning, or you get a little piece of grass on it, without that blade propelling the bait, then it seems to want to turn over. And when it turns over, of course, you're gonna hang up. I've always felt like I could fish that tandem spin in heavier cover than I could a single spin. So I've just kind of stayed hooked on the tandem spin. Very rarely do I see occasions that it's necessary to change to a single spin to catch more fish. So probably 80 or 90% of the time, I'm throwing a tandem spin. If I'm fishing in fairly clear water, I prefer a willow leaf blade. I always use a Colorado blade on the front. It catches more water and works more like a keel when I'm using that tandem spin bait. I use it on the front like a number 2 or number 3 Colorado blade. I'll use a willow leaf if I'm in clear water, and depending on the water clarity as to what size willow leaf I'll use and how big the fish are. If I'm at Lake Okeechobee and I'm catching 8 or 9 pounders, I'm going to use a big willow leaf. But if I'm on Lake Lanier catching 1.5 or 2 pounders, then I might use a 3 or 4 size willow leaf. Depends on how big the fish are.
Hank Parker will talk more about spinnerbaits on my next program, so I hope you'll join us. I'm Sammy Lee, and until next time, Tight Lines.
Tight Lines, brought to you by HuntMate,
The best hunting app for your iPhone.
by UFP,
America's leading maker of brake systems for boat trailers.
and by Smart Baits.
Color changes everything.
Thanks, Sammy Lee. And we have with us today a legend. He's like the bestest of the bestest. His name is Luke Clausen. Why do I say he's the bestest of the bestest? Because he has won both world championships. He's won the FLW World Cup, and he's also won the Bassmaster Classic. You know, winning any one of those makes you an instant legend. Winning 2 of those, what does that make you, Luke?
I don't know. It's kind of surreal when I won those. You know, I was pretty young in my career, and still have those accolades. My name's pretty awesome, but I was able to win those both in an 18-month period, and I think it was the second year I fished professionally, and probably garnered more respect for those titles now than when I actually won them.
Is there something about being younger in the sport, do you think?
Well, I think a lot of being younger in the sport is just not knowing any better. For one, you fish differently because you don't know what you should be doing.
Right.
And you don't realize how big of a deal it is to win a national championship like that, how big of an accomplishment and how difficult it is until you spend some time in the sport. So at an early stage in the sport, you don't realize how difficult it is, and what you're up against 2 or 3 days into the tournament. You're kind of just going out thinking, man, I just want to win, and you don't think about all the time and the years you put into fishing events trying to win one of those.
What would your advice be to babies like Brandon Polinick? He's just a baby in my mind. What would your advice to him be?
Just fish as many lakes as you can. That's the biggest thing that's helped me over my career is fishing so many different places. I moved to California after I fished up here in Washington and Idaho and Oregon. And I moved down there and fished for a while. I moved to Phoenix and fished for a while. And moved back to Tennessee and fished. And just the more places you can see, the more times a year, the quicker you can adapt. And really that adaptation is what separates good fishermen and great fishermen. Making those changes throughout an event and figuring out how to catch those fish is really what separates us in those two classifications.
You are known for throwing finesse lures, or are you?
I'd say I get more notoriety for fishing spinning rod finesse lures. The Forrest Wood Cup, FLW Forrest Wood Cup there, 2004 was the first major championship I'd won. I won it on a spinning rod on 8-pound line and a little 8-ounce shaky head, and that was kind of unheard of at that time. That was, the shaky head had been around, but to see events won on it and see those kind of weights and throwing it in heavy cover, a lot of different aspects of it were somewhat unheard of. So I gained a lot of notoriety for throwing a spinning rod and that type of light line stuff then, but you really have to be extremely versatile to compete throughout the year. There's so many events I go to that I catch 4 or 5 fish that I weigh in a day on 4 different things.
And Dion Hibden also, you can probably count, you used to be able to count the people that use spinning equipment on one hand. Not anymore, though. I think a lot of people from California have made spinning at least quasi-legitimate. I won't say legitimate yet, but quasi-legitimate. You're one of those people, Luke.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I've seen the transformation of a lot of the guys from the southeast and back east, the heart of bass fishing. Seeing that transformation, a lot of those guys when I first started fishing, there's no way I'm gonna carry one of those egg beaters in my boat. I'm not carrying that fairy wand around. I'm not throwing. I'm not doing it. And you see the transformation. Those same guys now have 2 or 3 of them on their deck.
Right.
It's really just an issue of being versatile. And there's times you need to catch a couple 2-pounders in a day, and there's times you just need to catch some fish, and sometimes you're going to catch bigger fish like that when conditions present themselves. And there'll be more and more tournaments won on them as we see a lot of these older reservoirs start to clear up as a lot of the wood and stuff decays in these lakes. The water tends to clear up, and the pressure continues to grow. That lighter line spinning rod applications are definitely more effective now or more necessary now than they were 10 years ago, and a lot of anglers are seeing that.
I think a lot of the older anglers have more of a prejudice against spinning tackle than the younger guys do. Tom Mann, one of the legends, he was one of the few that actually used spinning equipment. And, Guido Hibden and Dion Hibden, and I can't think of any more right now. That's the older generation.
Yeah, I'd see guys like Larry Nixon, watching some of the old Bassmaster videos, even seeing guys like Ron Sheffield back in the 80s. There was a tournament on Sam Rayburn, I believe, I was watching the other day.
I remember Ron Sheffield.
He was sort of spinning right there. And, obviously, equipment came a long way since then, but those guys were still experimenting with it, and the guys are still around. And it seemed like a lot of the guys that were really against the spinning stuff were ones that were pretty hardcore, dead set in their ways, that this is the way they were going to catch them, and they wanted to be a Denny Brower and only flip, or a David Fritz and only crank. And those guys were adamantly opposed to throwing a spinning rod. And it seems like now you either see them with spinning rods on the deck or you don't see them around anymore because they weren't making any money fishing.
You can't be a specialist anymore. You used to be able to, just flip or just crank or whatever in the old days, but not anymore. You have to be good at everything. That might be one of the reasons that spinning tackle has taken off. What do you think?
Well, I agree with that. There's definitely a time and place for everything, and it's gotten to be where anglers are spending so much more time in the water than they did in the past. And to be a specialist, you're going to have tournaments you lose as bad as the tournaments that you win. Right. There's just going to be some of those times where you're not going to catch anything if you just do one thing. And if you ever look at the top 10 in points in any tour, the guys that are up there towards the top are usually not a specialist in one thing, but can do a little bit of everything. But you look down the list of winners throughout the year, there may be one or two of those guys that is really a specialist. Things lined up for him. But to be good day in and day out, you need to be able to do it all.
You have to be a generalist. I think the days of the specialist are over. It's generalist rule now.
Yeah, I agree. And spinning rod is just another tool. It's just another tool in our box, no different than any other rod we have out there, from a jig, a spinnerbait, an Alabama rig, whatever it is. To me, it's just all a tool in the box, and there's a time and a place for everything. And unfortunately, most tournaments, you don't know if it's the time or place or not, and I have 20 rods on the deck with most of them on there.
You're right. It's a tool, and if you don't have a screwdriver in your toolbox, then you're not going to be able to drive screws, So, Luke, we got to take a break, and when we come back, I want to ask you about some of your finesse techniques. So think about all those techniques when we're on the break, all right?
Okay, sounds good. We'll talk to you in a minute here, Alex.
All right, folks, we'll be right back.
Good deer hunter is a straight shooter, literally, and keeping on target is infinitely easier for hunters who use a gun rest. Now there's a portable rest on the market that you can carry in your pocket that weighs only 5 ounces, costs only $20. Talking about the Little Sure Shot gun rest, a great gadget for hunters. I'm Wade Bourne, and this is Wired to Hunt Radio. Today, the Little Sure Shot would make a great Christmas gift for the hunter in your family.
Stay tuned for more Wired to Hunt Radio.
Reliable, durable, and fun to shoot are just a few of the ways people describe their experiences with the M&P Pistol Series from Smith & Wesson. Available in multiple calibers and frame sizes, these lightweight, high-strength polymer pistols are fine-tuned machines both inside and out, designed to meet the needs of law enforcement pros and recreational shooters alike. The M&P Series has you covered no matter your flavor. To learn more about the M&P Pistol Series, visit www.smith-wesson.com. With the mission to promote, protect, and preserve hunting in the shooting sports, the National Shooting Sports Foundation wants to help you better enjoy your sports. Take a lesson from champion pistol shooter Doug Koenig. Fine-tune your shotgun skills with top instructor Gil Ash, or learn how to sight in your rifle in just 2 shots. You'll find all the information you need to shoot better at nssf.org/videos. Watch and learn with NSSF at nssf.org/videos.
This is Wired to Hunt Radio.
If you're like me, you put off Christmas shopping to the last minute, but here's news about a stocking stuffer that's available now through Cabela's.com. Go ahead and order one and you'll beat the Christmas crunch. I'm talking about the Little Sure Shot gun rest. A hunter carries it in his pocket, then he hooks it onto any branch or tree limb or sapling where he sets up to hunt. It'll increase his accuracy up to 50% over shooting freehand. Kurt Lackey of Illinois is the inventor of the Little Sure Shot, and he says its main advantages are its portability and its versatility, especially when still hunting for deer or other big game.
They can have the stick, have it mounted at the level that they're going to shoot from, so if they're walking, they would adjust it to their own height. If they sit down on a log on the ground or on a little stool, they can just, within seconds, just lower the sight down, the rest down to exactly where they need to shoot, depending if they're shooting uphill, level, or downhill. And they'll have their gun on a solid rest right at their field of fire.
So remember, Little Sure Shot gun rest, a great gadget for your hunter's Christmas stocking. Again, you can order the Little Sure Shot right off the Cabela's website, Cabela's.com. And that's today's Wired to Hunt Radio. I'm Wade Bourne saying thanks for listening and get outside.
Thanks, Wade. Don't tell me to get outside. I'll get outside when I'm good and ready. We have with us a man by the name of Luke Clausen. Luke is he's won every award that there is to win. And Luke, you're fishing the FLW Tour right now, aren't you?
Yes, sir. We'll start again here in February. There's a little bit of our off time right now, but I'll be fishing the FLW Tour in the spring.
Luke, I threatened I would be asking you about the finesse fishing that you do. What baits and what colors do you use? And before we start with that, what line do you consider finesse?
What weight line? I'm assuming you're asking there.
Correct.
Finesse is kind of all up to your perception. And I really like to fish more of a power finesse style. I even use a bait caster a lot with a shaky head. I designed a worm for Z-Man this year called the Fatties that I've caught a tremendous amount of fish on this year with 12-pound line on a bait caster and a 3/16 ounce shaky head in it. And you pitch it around like you would in places you would throw a spinning rod or places you'd pitch a jig. You're pitching in that heavier cover with lighter line. You're going with a smaller approach than traditional. So to say that there's the right line size, you could say finesse would be 4-pound. But in some situations, for me, finesse is 12-pound line. I guess I kind of go with that power finesse approach. Even on a spinning rod, I'll throw 8-pound line most of the time. If I'm in extremely clear situations like a Lake Lanier or something like that, I'll go down to 6. But the majority of the time, I'm throwing 8 or greater. I'm trying to throw it in places where people throw conventionally larger line and larger baits.
Right.
Give them those fish a different presentation.
What is power finesse exactly?
Well, again, that's kind of, I guess, everybody deems it what they believe it is. But for me, it's just throwing it in those heavier cover situations. I fish around a lot of cover, places that when 10 years ago when I was fishing, I was throwing a jig in the same places I'm throwing a shaky head now, or I'm throwing a wacky worm. The stuff that I'm using on a spinning rod or on a lighter bait caster with up to 12-pound line, in those places that fish traditionally don't see a 4 or 6 inch straight tail worm, where they don't see a little short fat worm like that.
Yeah.
It's just a different presentation, a little bit lighter line, a little lighter weights, but in those heavier cover situations.
I think technology has really revolutionized the line industry. Never mind rods and reels, but especially the line. You can fish much narrower diameter lines than you ever used to be able to, right?
Yeah, the lines have came head and shoulders from what they were back even when I was just a kid, which I'd like to say wasn't that long ago. But it's amazing to me to see the difference of the first fluorocarbons that came out to what we have now. I use a gamma fluorocarbon, which is by far the best I've ever seen with the gamma ray technology, the strongest line I've ever seen. I'm swinging 3 and 4 pound fish in the boat with 8-pound line, which was unthought of just 6-8 years ago for me with the lines that were available then. And everything seems to progress like that, from rods and reels to even the baits, where I'm using Z-Man baits that are made of Elastec now, which have a tremendous amount of stretch and a totally different action than traditional plastisols.
You think the Elastec is better than the traditional plastisol?
I do, and I really believe there's certain situations it really shines. I don't think there's any point that it's any worse, but there's certain situations that it is a lot better because it does stand up off the bottom, and especially on a shaky head. If you ever look at a worm in a tank with that Elastec on it, it's amazing the amount of action it has due to the buoyancy it has to stand itself up off the bottom. And that action's even more accentuated when that tail's standing up in the open water column to where you can see it so much better. It's just a lot more action, and it has a totally different placement on the bottom and a different fall.
Elastec can only be made in opaque colors, is that correct?
Well, they make like a transparent green pumpkin. I don't know about any clears or anything to that effect, but they make pretty much all the traditional plastic colors, from watermelon to green pumpkins.
They have watermelon, and it's like a traditional watermelon?
Yeah, it's like a traditional watermelon. Just pretty much most all the traditional colors, from a transparent watermelon like you custom to seeing, to green pumpkin, to June bugs, to red bug, pretty much all the normal colors, the same transparencies to them.
Luke, where can people find out about you? Is there a website they can go to track you?
Yeah, definitely. You can go to my website, LukeClausenFishing.com. Okay. You can follow me on my fan page on Facebook, or you can go to FLWOutdoors.com and look me up there, and also there'll be links to my Facebook and my webpage. How important is Facebook to you? Oh, Facebook's a very important tool for me to be able to promote my sponsors' products. That's the biggest thing for me. Okay. It's great to be able to keep fans abreast of what I'm doing and get questions from fans and have a little bit more communication there. But it's a huge tool for me to promote my sponsors' products and let everybody know the products that I'm using and the cool things that are out there, the innovations that are coming out for fishing. Luke, we're done, unfortunately. Lynn, can't you make more time in the hour?
I wish I could.
All right, I could ask you another 1,000 questions, but unfortunately I can't. Luke Clausen, thank you for joining us. You are the bestest of the bestest. You're in my Hall of Fame. Well, Alex, I appreciate you having me. Give me a call anytime. We can finish this thing up another week. Okay, we will. Thanks, Luke. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Another Outdoors This Week has come and gone, and thank you for joining us.
Alex Langer, Outdoors This Week.